Mr. Rainwater.
Yeah, Joe.
We're winging it today.
Yeah, we don't have a script here. I mean, not that we ever
uh,
do have a script, but
Not really, but we're not coming into this with a topic. So this is going to be kind of a free-form episode where we might go into a whole bunch of things, or we might deep dive into one particular thing. Who the fuck knows? I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of excited. I was anxious before. I was a little, I don't want to call it depressed, but bored is probably the best way to describe it, when I couldn't think of anything, or stuck,
Sure.
maybe.
Sure.
Writer's block mode, kind of, you know what I mean? Where it's like, I don't know what the hell we're going to talk about, and it's kind of depressing.
It's blank page syndrome, you know? Like,
yes.
I have it almost every day. Well, not every day, but whenever I have, like, a page where it's like, there isn't anything on it, and I'm like, I know I have, like, thumbnails to work from, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But I have to put it on the page. Like, there's something that happens, you know, between that instant of like, I got to make something actually materialize here. Am I gonna land it? You know. At the same,
but then I was gonna say that's what it kind of, for me, it. Hold on a minute, I'm fixing my levels. It got exciting when you suggested, let's just go off the script and do whatever, and
yeah,
sometimes that's kind of what you need, is to just say fuck it. We talked about it, I think during our New Year's Eve or New Year's podcast. We were like, just do it. Stop being in your head about it and all this kind of stuff, and just get off and do it. But so we're kind of talking about improv, I guess, which also harkens back to the trusting your instinct thing. But this is one of those experimental type things where you're just going to try shit. And I think the best way to go into that is to have no illusions or no expectations.
That's the biggest part, right? No expectations. And I think that could be good advice for life in general in a lot of ways, because life is complete. I mean, from my perspective, life is completely an improvisational thing, because you don't know how it's going to turn out. You can have plans for it, right? And you do the best you can to make those plans land. But life happens, right? And there's that saying, like, life is what happens when you're busy making plans. So, like,
well, I thought you were going with the other way, which, I mean, I'm not religious anymore, but that expression, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yeah, that too, right?
It's the same thing, but yeah.
I mean, you know, having, you know, like, I'm currently still evacuated after a hurricane, and like, that's
fuck you guys for that hurricane, because it fucked us up too.
Yeah, I saw that.
We got worse from your hurricane fallout than we did from the hurricane that hit us directly.
Yeah, that's Gulf Coast does not fuck around. That's the thing, is like, and I guess that's why I'm bringing that up, is because life on the Gulf Coast is like that, where it's like summer comes around and it's like, hey, we got summer plans, but we're not sure if it's going to shake out because something might happen. Like, you kind of have to wing it in the middle of the season, and so it means you end up kind of staying with family or friends you didn't expect you're going to be staying with. It means you might have to be cleaning up some major messes when you get back home. It means that whatever your plans were previously, you're going to possibly have to add some additional housework into the middle of it, or some additional neighborhood cleanup. But
I think that's a great, like, analogy for storytelling, though. I mean, like, and not the act of storytelling necessarily, sometimes, sure, but like, that's kind of how stories are supposed to work, where you know, your character has a want, right, but they get hit with the needs that they have to take care of, and side adventures and things that all build towards changing who they are, that they didn't realize they needed to change. Like, all that kind of stuff is what goes into building out a story. So
that's often what pulls audience into a story too, is like, they can see where it's going, but then things happen where they're like, oh, I did not expect this. So what does this add to, you know, the recipe? Where does this go that I wasn't expecting it to go?
Because like, they want to know, they want to feel like, your audience wants to feel like they know where it's going, and then they want you to throw that curveball, because then it puts you and the audience. It's like a respect thing between you and the audience, where they're like, oh, I know you know that I know what you know. And they're like, it's like simpatico type thing, where it's like, oh, I relate to this artist because they are in my head already. Like we can relate that way. We have those expectations shared, and they're giving me something new. It's like, oh, I like spaghetti, but I've never had spaghetti with, red pepper
like,
infused into the pasta.
Yeah. What did you add into the meatballs? What is that? And then it's, like,
yes, that's where life comes from. That's the fun of discovery, right? And that's where I think we turn to stories, and I think that's why people complain when things get cliche or trite or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, they want what they want, but they want you to sprinkle some cinnamon into a meatball and be like, hey, what the hell?
What's really weird too about a lot of modern movie making is like, a lot of it's very like, it's either too improv, right? Like, I would make that complaint about like the most recent Ghostbusters movie, where it's just like they didn't really.
Wait, which one? The chick one or the new one where they're doing Stranger Things?
I think that was 2016. Where
the one with all the women. Okay.
Yeah. Like, I was that aspect didn't bother me. I was just like, I hope it's good because I like Ghostbusters 1 and 2. And then I watched and was like, they didn't really have a lot to play with here. They just kind of like winged it too much.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem. Like, I was saying the same thing too. Like, that was one of my bigger problems with it, was I really do enjoy both Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon.
Yeah.
I'm not that big of a Leslie Jones fan, even though it turned out when I watched the movie, she was, I think, the best part of the entire movie the whole time. But it was, when I watched it, my criticism really was, Kate McKinnon's fun, but she needs to be wrangled. Like,
she needs something to play off of. Because I really liked her character, but I was like, she needs somebody who is like totally 100% the straight
guy.
Yeah.
And that's not talking about like, sexuality. That's just talking about like the character trope, like the everyman or whatever, like the Jim from The Office, the person that everyone's like, can someone acknowledge that this is not normal? And that's that role of that character. And my feelings go towards that was my exact same complaint for Deadpool 2.
Oh, really? Because I like Deadpool 2 a lot, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say in regards to that.
I have a Ryan Reynolds is like my gay man crush. Like, that guy is hilarious to me and everything. However, that said, I think he had too much clout and too much power, and it was too much whatever Ryan wants to do. Yeah, and and that improvisation thing needs, especially in editing, needs to get focused and narrowed down into something cohesive and not so scattershot.
That's an interesting point, because like, have you watched Detective Pikachu? Because that would be an example of a movie where Ryan Reynolds is in it, and it's like they really roped him in. You know what I mean? And so he's played to the max of what they're allowing him to do. I'm not saying this is like, hey, this is a great movie, but I'm saying like, in terms of use of Ryan Reynolds, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I watched that with my wife, and I think I slept through most of it, and I don't think I don't think it was the movie's fault. I think it was just where I was at the time. But I think my wife enjoyed it, which is not saying much, but she I don't really remember my feelings about that. But I like Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool 1. I feel like that director and him had a rapport where it was, he was able to play, but it was within that box that worked within the story. I don't think it should be like a box of like studio and marketing concepts and whatever's, socially acceptable at the time. I don't think that should be the box artists should be put in. I think it should be more of like thematic boxes, or a plot box, or even some sort of like character box. You know what I mean? Like, you hear the age-old trope of like, actors going, oh, well, my character wouldn't do that. And then the writer says, yeah, they fucking would. Look at the script. Like, that's what I wrote. Yeah. That's okay. Like, I think those are the kinds of boxes that artists should play in. But when it's Ryan Reynolds just like, hey, I'm going to be Ryan Reynolds in the Deadpool suit, it's like, no, you need to be Deadpool in the Deadpool suit. And that's where it starts getting, that's where it loses me, I should say.
Sure.
Um,
Sure. When you compare that then to like the other extreme, which would be like the prequel Star Wars films, right? Where like the actors have no room to play. It's like whatever Lucas felt like it should be. And that was part of the problem, right? Because Lucas's vision basically like killed a lot of the energy of the actors to the point where you don't know what their energy even is, right?
I
Like, they're all
remember. I
kinda
think.
same
I
thing.
think I might. I think I might have even been watching it with you back in college days. But I think I watched like a episode 1, like special features. No, it was Excuse me. It was episode 2 or 3. I don't know. I can't remember. But I remember specifically watching the special features, and it was like a behind the scenes thing of Hayden Christensen giving a performance, and I'm like, wow, that was a fucking spectacular like performance of that line.
Yeah.
Why didn't they use that one in the movie? And
Yeah.
it becomes very clear that George Lucas went in, meddled, gave him different direction, had him do a different reading of that line, and that's the one that he wanted. That's the one he chose, and that's the one that was wooden. So when people say like, oh, Hayden Christensen was so uncharismatic and kind of wooden in that role, I don't blame Hayden Christensen at all.
Yeah.
It's 100% George Lucas's fault.
No, because like I finally saw you and a bunch of people kept recommending this movie to me after I was talking about how I liked Robert Pattinson in Tenet, and I can't even remember what the name of the fucking movie is. I think it's Good Times. Is that what the name of it, or is it something? It's like
A Good Times is the one with James McAvoy. That's like out in theaters right now.
No, it's not that. It's good. It's like, so let me just describe the plot of the movie. Like, Robert Pattinson plays this guy who's like pretty sketchy, like, drug dealing kind of dude, and his brother is like helping him, but his brother is like not fully mentally there. And who recommended it?
I don't think it was me that recommended this, because this is not ringing any bells to me. No.
I can't remember the name of the movie. It's really good though. It's on Netflix right now. It's an A24 film.
It's not The Lighthouse. That's an A24 movie. I mean, I haven't seen that either, but
yeah. Hold on. Robert Pattinson. This is what happens when you go off the script, right? You get to have fun little moments like this.
That's fine.
Robert Pattinson.
Clearly, if people are listening to us, they don't have much to do right now.
Robert Pattinson in the movie's called Good Time. So
I've heard of it. I don't think I've seen it, though.
I swear you recommended it to me. Maybe it was somebody else who was a guest on here, and I'm just blanking. So anyway, I recommend it. Anyway, he's really fucking good in that movie, and I had related everything to him, with like Twilight, right? Because that was like the big thing for a long time, and that's another example of like,
yeah,
the director has an idea and it doesn't really play to the strengths of that person, that actor.
Did you ever see Robert Pattinson talk about his performance on Howard Stern?
No.
Oh, he actually, I mean, I haven't seen anything to actually lend this to be my opinion, but from his opinion, he gave a much better performance, like that was like nuanced and kind of, subtle, and he had like more depth of character in Twilight and this and that. And it was like maybe like 2 or 3 days into the production of the first movie or whatever. Yeah. And his agent came to him and said like, hey, they're going to fire you if you keep this shit up. And he was like, I'm giving a performance. Like, I'm trying to like really add to this. They're like, no, they want you to like smolder and be sexy, glittery vampire guy. That's what you're going to do. Or you don't get this, you don't keep this gig. You don't get the exposure that comes with it. You won't get offers for more jobs. You won't be able to really get along with an actor. This is an opportunity. You have to do what they want you to do. And so, he said, he was like, it kind of killed him to do it. But then, financially after the fact, he was able to do what he wanted to more. And that's why you see him doing all these like indie films and this and that. Yeah. Same with Kristen Stewart. I don't think she's technically a bad actress.
I just haven't seen her in a lot of stuff.
I haven't seen her in a lot, but I know that there's a lot. She did the same thing as Robert Pattinson. She's like in like a lot of indie movies now, and she's not playing like the generic girlfriend character or anything like that. She's playing like roles about women, And like, I think that a lot of people that were in that franchise were just like, that's a paycheck thing, man, where you gotta take it up the ass for the business, so that you can do what you want to do after the fact, which I'm not a fan of Robert Pattinson in general. I'm not a fan of him becoming Batman. However, the fact that he probably chose to be Batman as opposed to doing it for the paycheck is giving me a little bit more inclination to give him a shot. Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, because I know where he is as an actor, that to me is a little bit, and that's all I really want from my actors is, you know, people who are not there for the paycheck, but because they want to contribute something. That to me is, so despite my general lack of interest in Robert Pattinson, I'm willing to give him the shot. That's, you know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm at. And I think that's the same thing with Jared Leto playing the Joker. Everybody dumps on that, but I look at some of the footage before, you know, Warner's hijacked it from David Ayer, and I'm looking at that and I'm like, you know what? I don't really dig the gangster tattoos on the Joker and this and that, but the performance Leto was giving didn't bother me. Like, I was digging it. He was, you know, he had the unfortunate task of taking that role on directly after Heath Ledger. Who the fuck wants that? But here's the thing, and I think Leto knew that when he signed up. It was like, okay, this is a monumental challenge to follow in those footsteps, and I think he's clearly an artsy type of guy. He took up that challenge because he was like, you know what, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try and do this role. And everybody immediately compared it to Heath Ledger and, oh, it's not as good as Heath and da-da-da-da. And it's like, no, you have to judge it for what it is. And I think he was trying to do something. And then, you know, the film got hijacked by Warner's and we didn't get to see most of it. So that's the biggest reason why I'm interested in seeing the Ayer cut, is because I think there's redemption waiting for Jared Leto. And I want to be the guy carrying that flag, because I have yet to meet anyone who is on my side with this. Hopefully in the next couple of years, like, there's one of those like cult followings that suddenly springs up for a movie or an actor or whatever, will rise up and support me. But right now it's me waving this white flag for Jared Leto as the Joker. But that kind of stuff, you know, that's what interests me as an artist when it comes down to collaboration. Is I want people who are enthusiastic about what they're doing. They're not there for the opportunity or the paycheck or anything like that, or exposure or whatever. It's because they see something in the material and they're like, hey, I can contribute to this. Like, I want to play. Like, that's the real reason I'm here. And that kind of energy is like what I feed off as an artist, because I've realized in filmmaking, you have to be the cheerleader, the rah-rah, until everybody gets to your level, and that's exhausting.
No, that's like military type shit. Like, that's like... Yeah. I was listening to a lecture about generals in World War II, and particularly, I think... I'm really bad at names, but I think it was Marshall, and it was like about his plan about how he basically went in and had to reorganize the entire like military to prepare for like World War II. And he was like, we have to have a rubric, and one of these things is like the generals that we have to represent us need to have an optimistic outlook. So in other words, they can't be overly cautious, because like we're going to be going into some really tough battles. We need somebody that, you know, men can look up to and not feel like they're going to be just going headlong into, you know, being cannon fodder. So like there were very specific psychological choices being made in order to prepare for, you know, what is this? I mean, you know, the terminology that they use is like for the theater, because it's like you're going into a backdrop that does not usually happen in normal life. You don't want it to happen in normal life, right? You're preparing for something that is outside of the norms. And so you need people to represent and to be making plans and making decisions who are going to, like you're saying, like they are there for the people who are putting their lives on the line. So like I mean, maybe not quite the exact same thing, right? Like actors aren't
Sure.
necessarily putting their lives on the line, but like they are going into untread territory. Anytime, even with a script, you're going into untread territory because you still have to like go through the effort of like making the sounds out of your mouth, making the body postures and the body language that
Yeah.
you know nobody's really thought about, if you especially if you're trying to do it in a way where you're hitting something original, you're hitting something different. It's hard to do. It's hard work, and I think that's why I enjoy improvisational art. I mean, like there are limits to that, to my enjoyment of that, but part of why I enjoy it and why I engage with it is because a lot of the times you get a lot of those happy accidents, to steal a Bob Ross phrase. Like you get a lot of uh, those unique moments that can't come about any other way. Like you can't force originality. You have to allow it to just like come out of, you know, come out of the moment, basically.
I'm curious to know, as a webtoonist, how do you experience that kind of contribution from characters? Because like for me, if I'm on set, I have an actor in front of me
Yeah.
playing a character, and I could say, all right, we're going to do the first take my way. And, you're going to walk from here to here, you're going to do this, and then you're going to be done. And then the second take, once I'm happy, if you wanted to try something, we can try something. And then they might do like a hop, skip, and a jump, and then backflip back to where they started, flip the finger, and walk away. And then I'll be like, that's brilliant. Why didn't I think of having the character do that?
Yeah.
But I have that. That's a privilege of, the constant collaboration that comes from filmmaking. I'm curious to know, like in a webtoon, you don't have that. It's basically you, if you have a writer and maybe an editor doing stuff. Like, do you miss that kind of contribution, or do you randomly like get the character jumping off the page like in an LSD type trip, like going, "Hey, I want to do this."
Yeah. I will say like, so my one collaboration that is like 100% where it's the only like webtoon collaboration that I'm doing right now, are finished actually, which was Bat Monster. So like that one, I'm drawing everything, but I don't know what these characters are gonna say. Austin is the one who does that, right?
Does he do it after the fact? Like you
Yes.
draw and then he just fills in the bubbles?
Yes. There aren't even
That's
like
awesome.
there aren't even bubbles set up. Like I don't know what the hell he's gonna come up with. What the hell he's
I
gonna
had
think.
no idea.
And like his techniques too, and he told me about some of the techniques he was using. Like he was doing like I think I'm trying to remember I think it's cut and paste, where it's like he's just taking like he wrote out like a text, or he found like some stories or books and just cut out stuff and pasted it together to like see what would come up. And it's actually like a really like that's kind of an old school technique. Like David Bowie would use that technique to come up with lyrics for some of his songs.
That's very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's one of those like kind of occult things that a lot of people did back in like the 50s and 60s. And like
Wow.
I've wanted to do it because I'm kind of curious about it. Like I personally have never done that technique, but it's like it's a classic one. It's definitely a way of like breaking up your, if you're in like a rut, or if you're in like a place where you're kind of doing the same thing over and over again. It's a way to kind of break out of it. So
It's like a different play on a word prompt.
yeah, exactly. Because like you don't have to do exactly what you paste together. You just use that as the template for whatever inspires new things out of you. So
See,
like
I do that mostly from like stealing shit from my favorite movies.
yeah,
Or like TV shows. I use it as like placeholders sometimes, and then I'll be
Yeah.
like, how do I jump from that to something else? But I've never actually tried to randomly do that, and that's kind of interesting to me now.
yeah, it's really cool. And like I was saying, like there are characters who in Bat Monster, there are characters where Austin was saying like, yeah, when I was writing this part, like I was just like writing this character, he's in like a totally different story from the other character who's like listening in on him. It creates like this really, it's really interesting to see how things sort of fit together as you, because like it's the process for making it was completely chaotic. Like I was just drawing whatever, you know what I mean? Like it was basically doodling, but like doodling in such a way where there was sort of a narrative going on. And for both of us, the idea was to see what kind of narrative would come out for the reader and see if it was different every time for each reader, what they felt and thought about it, right? And so that's Bat Monster. But for like Trailer Park Warlock, like I improv a lot of the specifics of the plot. So like I always have a beat sheet set out like from the beginning, so I have an idea of where it's going. I know this is a pain in the ass to my editors because like there's a point where I'm like, hold on, there's a tangent I want to follow and see where it goes and see how it fits into everything. And that's always where like the interesting stuff pops up, right? So like I've probably talked about this before, but like season 2 was one where I only had planned like maybe 5 or 6 episodes around this one vampire character, and then like he kind of took over the story for like the next 20 episodes. It became about Jake and his relationship to that character and how like basically this vampire character had screwed up everything in Jake's life and all this other stuff. So like in terms of like what you were originally talking about when we started this question, like in terms of like, you know, drawing the character or whatever, I've actually had to like spend a lot of time thinking about and constructing ways to draw characters in which I don't like. There was a while where I was wondering like, am I just like drawing all these characters, they're all acting the same way, you know what I mean? Like
they're all you. Yeah
exactly. And like I've been working at trying to break out of that because I don't want that kind of like it's not dynamic, right? It's not true to life and doesn't breathe life into the characters.
And conflict is key. Like we've talked about that before, and it's hard to fight with yourself.
Yeah, and like something that happened after a while is I kind of started with Jake, where it's like I'm starting to have more moments where like he does things where I'm like, okay, here's the redneck coming out of him, right? Like this is a specific character trait to Jake because like he's most of the time he tries to keep it cool and he's like kind of low key depressed in some ways or world weary, but there are moments where he gets pissed off and the redneck comes out, and like that's like one character trait that I'm trying to develop for him, where it's like this is him in struggle with himself, and that's like something that I kind of relate to, right? Like that's still kind of me coming out. I mean, there's no way that you can get around the idea that it's you coming out in some way. Yep. It's just finding all the different aspects, right, of yourself or people that you know in your life. And that's the most crucial thing, right? Is like especially for drawing or writing, is very much connecting to other people other than yourself in your life and bringing them out into the script. And like, you know, not to the point of that you're just like doppelganging them, you know, like you don't want to just like cut and paste, but you want to find those little mutations that make them original characters.
There's patterns that artists and storytellers observe in other people that they don't observe about themselves. And, you know, sometimes, you know, the assholes of us will point those out and be dicks about it to people, and others of us will just be like, hey, that's just, you know, how they are, you know, their experiences have shaped them that way. But then when you're writing something and, you know, you can see a moment to infuse that, you have a justification from a real world, be like, I know somebody who does something like that. And like, that's, you know, that's their worldview. That's why they do it like this or this or that. I was explaining this to my wife the other day because we were talking a little bit about the Cemetery Sweethearts thing, and that whole transgender thing was kind of popping up, and she seemed a little weirded out by it. I don't know if it was the fact that I was talking about how I put myself into all of the characters that I write, and she was like, you're going to put yourself in a transgender person? I'm like, well, that's kind of what a writer does. Like it doesn't matter if I'm writing for a serial killer or if I'm writing for a trans person, or if I'm writing, or a trans character, I should say. or if I'm, writing for an aunt, or, it doesn't, it's always me in that particular character. And I have to creatively think, if this were me, how would I handle that situation? And that's when those choices start coming out. And, there's parts of me that, and I'm not talking about the trans character, I'm talking about like every character, where I have like a dark side, where I think everybody has that thing where it's like, man, I wish I could go over and punch that person right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, or if I pulled this rug a little bit, this guy would fall off a skyscraper and no one would ever see him again. And he kind of deserves it. We don't fucking do it because there's things called laws or morality or whatever. But in our head, like, we all have different personalities and stuff like that. And we subdue them or exaggerate them depending on situations, circumstances, surroundings, people we're near, how it'll affect our future life or how it reflects back on us or whatever that we do or don't say. And sometimes when I'm in my other characters, I will let those kind of, I don't want to call it dark side because it makes it sound sinister and evil, but it's like the buried aspects of my personality.
Yeah,
I will let that come out.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Yeah, like,
and that's
I try to explain this to her all the time. I'm like, I went to fucking art school.
Yeah.
I know how to be an interior designer if I wanted to. I know what colors clash with other ones. I don't, but I'm also in a sense where I grew up with a bunch of like alpha male type dudes as friends who will just bust your balls the second you start talking about how the pink and the green don't go together, like they clash. I'm not going to start talking about that when they're around, because then they're just going to be like, oh, Jow's an interior designer now. And I just don't want to have to deal with that shit, so I don't say it. But like, if it's just my wife and she's asking my opinion, I'll be like, no, that doesn't work because this and that pattern doesn't work in this daylight because of that angle and all that kind of shit. But when I'm in a character, if I'm writing for a female character, not a trans character, but like a female, cisgender female, I can just be like, boom, there you go. Here's my art school stuff and my creativeness, and but when like the alpha dudes read it, and this was the same fucking thing with Digits, and this pissed me off so bad. But when characters did stuff in Digits, like my dad was like, oh, that guy was really funny. That character was really funny. That guy is a really good writer. And I'm thinking to myself, Dad, I wrote that. I directed that. That's me. That's not him. Like, that moment was all me. Like, yes, he did the performance and everything, and he did it gracefully. He hit it pitch perfect. But everything in that else that was there is me. Yeah. It's basically me in another person costume. And my dad doesn't understand that. My wife doesn't understand that. So it's like, that's kind of the struggle as the writer, is, or at least, I guess that's the... I talked before about the privilege of me collaborating with other people that you don't kind of get. And on the flip side of that, I guess I lose some of the credit with people who don't understand how the execution works. Whereas I guess that's a privilege for you, because there's 3 names attached to a work, where it's like the illustrator, the writer, and the editor. And so, a lot of it will go towards you in that instance. So I guess that's kind of the trade-off.
It is the trade-off, but then it's a weird thing, because then, like, if people start to think like you are 100% of that work, in the sense that for a good example, like, I don't know, somebody like Trent Reznor, right? Like, Nine Inch Nails has really dark music, so everybody thinks that Trent Reznor is like this terrible dark dude, and he's probably just a regular ass dude, and this is his way of working his shit out, right? Yep. He has a lot of shit, maybe, but like, everyday life, he's just kind of like a lot of other people, just like, you know what I mean, gets up, takes a shit like everybody else, like eats Oreos, eats Cheerios, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, the idea often becomes like, people over-relate the work to you, to where they think like, oh, you're just 100% this, you know what I mean? Like, in order for me to like do the research and stuff for Trailer Park Warlock, like, I read a lot of occult stuff. I got interested into a lot of occult stuff, but that doesn't make me 100% like an occultist. I'm just interested in the terrain because I think that there are interesting ideas in there. It's the same way, and like I appreciate a lot of stories out of all kinds of different world religions, not just Christianity, but like I like a lot of pagan stories. That doesn't make me a pagan. It's just like I
Hmm.
find elements in it that I enjoy, or like I meditate. That doesn't really make me a Buddhist. Like I'm not. I like the ideas, and I want to integrate them into my life because I'm hungry for it, basically. Like
That's one of the things I've noticed in my later years is I have a thirst to just fucking know everything.
yeah,
I wish I'd had this when I was in school. I would have been the asshole in the front of the, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
the front seat, raising my hand every 10 seconds and asking questions and stuff. But now I'm like that, where it's like, I like to have a hodgepodge, a scattershot of knowledge from everything. That's why I like when I watch movies. If I, there are movies that I hate from start to finish,
Yeah.
right? And I've seen it in the theater, so everybody's like, why did you buy the Blu-ray? I don't understand. I thought you hated that movie. And I was like, yes, I hated this movie. However, there was like one scene where they had a really cool lighting and I really liked how the editing worked in that scene. Or I watched this movie and I think to myself, that's wrong. Okay, but I would have done that too. So this is me learning not to do that. You know what? Like, there's so much that I can take away, even from things that I don't like. It's weird.
Oh, 100%. There's a ton of things I mean, some things are harder to integrate that I don't like than others. I mean, I'm finding more and more that I like movies that would typically be considered bad movies in the sense that like production might be kind of off or whatever. But a lot of those movies I find have original thoughts in them and like go to places I wouldn't see in normal movies. And maybe I have to like struggle through like some really boring parts, but then something happens where it's like, oh shit, like that's a
Yeah.
cool idea. Like,
Right. I wish they had played with this more and just, take that concept and ran with
yeah,
it. But then that's your prerogative as an artist, though, is to be like, hey, I liked this concept. That's kind of what happened with Haunted. Like, I watched that movie, The House is October Built, which was like a fake documentary type thing about like the haunts and this and that. And I went in with an expectation, and that expectation was not delivered on. They were doing something completely different, and I was like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Okay, well, whatever. And then, out of that came, well, what would I have done? And here we are. So I think that's one of the best things for an artist is to see things that you don't like. Not because it's like, hey, fuck you, I'm going to...
sure.
It's more like, that's a muse in
It
a
is.
way.
I get almost not necessarily militant, but like I get like I can go off the rails about that idea because to me, like I feel like I have often found some of my favorite music is out of like the albums that were maybe everybody's least favorite, right? Like great so a great example of this is like so like the Beach Boys, right?
Not what I expected you to say. We went from Trent Reznor to the Beach Boys,
I know,
but go
I know.
ahead.
I have there's a lot of stuff going on. Brian Wilson, who was like I think one of the major producers for the Beach Boys, he kind of like was the person who would often spearhead a lot of their where they were going to go. And one particular album, which is not a lot of people's favorite, but it is a favorite for a lot of hipster types, and this is how I started hearing about it. And this album is called Pet Sounds. Very different from the rest of their like discography in that like the topics of the music, not a single one of them has to do with the fucking beach or surfing or anything. It's like it would like the material in Pet Sounds would fit in with a lot of like modern indie music because it's about like dealing with depression or dealing with like not fitting into society or like just feeling like an outcast. And like I think it's a weird album, but I love it. It's like one of my favorites. And that's just like one example. Like another one that I can think of that I think is really interesting, even though it's not particularly great, is like the one. Well, he did two albums, but the first album that William Shatner made, where he's like, he does this weird like theatrical. He's not singing. He's like talking over music with like a little bit of rhythm, and so he does covers of like "Hey Mr. Tambourine Man" and a couple other songs. It's a weird fucking album, but after listening to it, I was like, okay, like there's an idea here, right? Like
Yeah.
really, he like went into this like, okay, how can I can't sing for shit, but like, what can I bring to this game?
That's awesome.
But
Um,
and like I said, I started this whole thought with, I think it's worth exploring the territories that like the public won't go into, because I think there's gold there a lot of the time, you know? Like I think there's something interesting there that you know, you wouldn't find otherwise.
I think that's our not calling, responsibility as artists.
Sure.
Is to bring that to people. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
I guess that it's almost like the mindset of being an entertainer is that, you know, they're going to handle all the other drivel, you know, crunching numbers and stocking shelves or whatever like that. But as artists and entertainers, it's our job to do that work, to bring people things that either they haven't seen or they didn't know had value and provide it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of our job, is to provide that perspective, which is hard because a lot of times people will go in with a set mindset about something. Oh, this is shit. Or, you know, oh, that's terrible take. Or, you know, this movie is an apologist for, you know, Nazis or something. Like,
Yeah.
and the job of the artist the entire time is to shine some kind of a light on something, maybe in a way you hadn't seen it before or hadn't known it existed or whatever like that. So I think you're onto something there with, you know, going where the public won't, because that's, you know, like you said, there is gold there. There is things. And then it's weird because the way, if you look at it like a giant like Sims compilation, if you go where the gold is and there's nobody there, the people will come to the gold. And then after a while, you go back over to where the people were originally and you'll find the things that they left behind and forgot about.
Exactly.
And that's the new gold. That's kind of the way it works.
Well, I mean, another way of looking at it too is like looking at discographies of like older artists. So like I'll always talk about him because he's one of my favorites, which is David Bowie. He has like a huge discography, and part of that was like, you know, having to do with you know, record contracts and stuff like that. Like you're kind of forced into like, you need to have an album this many, you know, this many albums by this many dates or whatever. And like when you're forced into that kind of position, you're gonna go with situations where it's like, yeah, we kind of wing this, right? Like there's some albums that I've never, you know, like I would come across later on, like, why haven't I heard about this album? Like, is it just that everybody kind of overlooked it because maybe they didn't like the songs as much, because they didn't like, none of them got like a top hit, you know, like number 5, number 1 on the billboards or whatever. And to me, it's like if somebody ripped out pages out of the journal, you know, and I didn't get to read those pages, and now I'm coming back to them later on, and I'm like, oh shit, like there's this album called Lodger, which is like totally about his experiences traveling and like being kind of a listless loner, you know, and feeling like a loser, even though he's like one of the most famous artists, right? And there's some great songs on that album. It's not like, you know, the greatest album ever, but it's, for me, like I said, it's like being able to find this like lost diary or journal that for whatever reason nobody kept around. And
It's interesting that you talk about that, because like I was thinking about Michael Jackson in that mindset, because growing up I was a big Michael Jackson fan, and obviously I bought when they came out, it was like the essential Michael Jackson collection or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was all like his number one hits and this and that and things that I'd heard a million times. And at one point, you know, I had that thirst for new Michael Jackson stuff, but he wasn't making music at that time. So I went and I bought like a different album, and I found an album that no one talked about, and there was a song on it. Like, most of the songs on it weren't that great, but there was one song on it that hit for me. And I was like, this is a great fucking song. Like, nobody's like, how come no one else is listening to it? And then I started realizing that the essential Michael Jackson album that I got was somebody curating Michael Jackson. And the metric of which they curated it was, like you said, the number one on the chart, or how much money that particular song made for the business or whatever. And that's why those songs were there. And this song was never released as a single or anything like that. And this album was pretty panned by critics and this and that. But that song fucking smacks. And like, to this day, on my list, my playlist on my Amazon Music, that song is right there. And like, you know what I mean? Like, I still get to vibe out to that music. And that's one of those things where you have to kind of be wary about how people are curating things. Like, we talked about that in that episode, was, you know, yes, the public has a good inclination to kind of, and that's the mainstream thing, where it's like, hey, check this out, this is awesome, this is clicking universally with people. But that doesn't mean because it's certain things aren't clicking with people that they won't click with you. You gotta, especially as an artist, you gotta try, you have to taste a spoonful of shit. And that's the hard truth. That's really the hard truth. I mean, that goes back to you saying, like, you've watched movies that are like kind of left alone these days because production values weren't great or whatever, and sit through boring scenes. That's the spoonful of shit. And at the very end of it, there might be a little sweetie goodness that was like, oh, this shit's not that bad. Like, for the most part, it was bad, but there's something here that if I can find, and that's when I get to my like food thing, where it's like, hey, I don't like this dish, but this one particular flavor that I got right here, what flavor is that? Because I can mix that with a meatball, or put it on a sandwich or a steak or something like that, and that's going to really go in a different direction that's awesome, that I've never had before. And that's the kind of shit that you see that breaks through, right? Like, that's the stuff that Gordon Ramsay starts doing at all his restaurants, and now it's the big thing and all that kind of jazz. But that's what it is. It takes one person to eat that spoonful of shit to learn something or think a different way that changes the game. And I don't think we get enough respect as artists for doing that. You know what I mean?
I don't think that it's something that is commonly like acknowledged or recognized for people who don't do the artist thing, you know? Because I mean, I think for a lot of people who are not artistically inclined, they look at it in the same way that maybe, you know, maybe a bodybuilder might look at protein. It's just like, I just need protein. Just give me, like, I need something, so long as it does what I need, you know, as long as it makes me laugh or makes me cry, I don't really care. And like, for, you know, for artists, it's like, I gotta have that specific hit. Like, I need it. You can't just give me whatever. Like, I need to dive down into the trash to like find this thing that I'm looking for that y'all might not even know exists, right? Like, I don't even know if it exists, but I'm gonna look for it because, like,
well, because a lot of people, the money people throw out the baby with the bathwater. That's the truth of it.
Yeah.
And we go after the baby.
yeah. And I the other thought that was coming to my mind is just like, in thinking about a lot of art in the modern period, it's just like, it's almost like there's been too much concentration on like the award-winning formula or the award-winning recipe. And that's not like, I don't want to dog on it, because if it works, it works. But at the same time, I want to find ways that we can like alter it, mutate it, like, what's the next leg up, right? Like, maybe there's something even better than that. Like, maybe there's something better than that formula that we haven't like uncovered yet. And like I know that that gets into like tricky territory, right? Because then I'm like advocating for this idea that like there aren't like absolutes to it, right? Like there can be changes to the formula. There can be like new contexts in which we could understand stories. And I'm not advocating that like every movie from now on needs to be like some weird Tim and Eric skit where it's just like surreal and the what are the jokes? It's all anti-humor or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm advocating more for like let's experiment a little. Like let's try things out a little bit, just a little bit. We don't have to like rip the script. We can just push a little bit here or there. Go. What were you gonna say, Jow?
I'm one of those people though that I'm like, yeah, we need to put a box on this because like right now there are pumpkin spice Oreos, pumpkin spice Twinkies, pumpkin spice cinnamon rolls. Like,
yeah,
the pumpkin spice thing is going too far, and it's like, oh, we couldn't just keep that as a coffee drink. Like that, we have to put pumpkin spice on fucking everything.
I would argue that is explicitly what I was arguing against, right? Because I think the pumpkin spice thing is like the 3-act formula where like somebody found something that works for lattes and they're like, well, we're going to try it for this, and then it works still, and then it works and it works and it works, and then they start pushing it into things where it's just not going to work so well, right?
Yeah,
because they want to see how far that'll go. They want to see how maybe I'm the one who's wrong and maybe they're the ones who are pushing the envelope. Maybe you're right? Like
maybe. I mean, I did buy the pumpkin spice cinnamon rolls. I haven't tried them yet, but I saw it and I was like, all right, I have to try this so I know that it's bad. And like, that could be a cash grab on their end where it's like everybody's going to try it and we're going to make money off it and then that'll be done. But as an artist who eats, I had to take a spoonful of shit, so it's sitting in my refrigerator right now. I don't know when I'm going to get around to it, but I know I'm going to eat them, and I will report back my thoughts. But I don't know. I think, as an artist, well, I guess I should say, as an artist, it's our job to find those things, use those things, but then leave those things.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, we can't become that one note where it's like, oh, Jow is the pumpkin spice guy. He put pumpkin spice on a steak once, and then he put pumpkin spice on, this, on that, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, you gotta. That's where like variety needs to kick in for an artist, especially. I think instinctually artists get bored very fast.
Oh yeah, and that's why you end up having so many artists who have phases, right? Like, they have places where they're like, okay, this is the period of my life where I was exploring like this really dark space, or this is my period of my life where I was exploring like really cheery poppy kind of stuff, And it's because, I mean, in my opinion, if you're doing the art game right, like you're trying out different things and you're going into places you wouldn't usually go, and like you said, you explore it and appreciate it, and then you put it away after a while and go find the next thing.
I'm curious because we're talking about this, because I think that applies to mediums as well for an artist. So like, I know you noticed, but I started a different Instagram than my personal one where I called it The Art of the Jow or whatever. And I've got, I think I've got like a cartoon type drawing up there and an oil painting, a digital oil painting, I should specify. So I'm curious to know if for you, is there any like new art mediums that you've been wanting to dabble in? Because like I've right now I've done my screenwriting phase. I've done a little bit of like a novel writing. I never finished it, but I did enjoy it while I was doing it. I've done directing. I've done film editing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm curious to know what other mediums you might be being entranced by at the moment, if any.
Yeah. The big one is music. Like, I would be really interested if I have the time and the resources to, like, actually get into understanding how to make music. And, like, over time, I've been slowly, like, studying theory and stuff like that, but not super competently. Just enough where I've gotten to a point where, like, I have I will have days where I like get an idea for lyrics for a song in my head, and I'll just start writing them down just to see where it goes. But like I'm not at a point yet where I would be like, oh, I'm gonna make a song now, right? Like I'm at a, and not that I haven't already made songs in the past. I have made music in the past, but I would not call it competent at all. Like I'm in a, if I switched over to Medium, it would be like I want to make a competent album, you know, or even let's dial that down. Let's just say a competent like single, you know what I mean? Like see if I can do it. That would be the one right now where I'm like, I want to do a lot of, games. That's another one. There's been a lot of story elements in Trailer Park Warlock where I've been kind of messing around with ideas for games, and seeing like if in the future I can play off of that and eventually like pitch to create a game to sell to people. You know what I mean?
Monetize. You can say it. It's not a dirty word. It's not a dirty word,
sure.
but
the idea
the idea of creating merchandise like off of things that you've created is not necessarily a money thing. You can make money from it. You should make money from it when you create stuff. I don't think artists, we shouldn't be ashamed of monetizing things that we create. That's something Joe, I think a lot of us feel like we're betraying our artistic oath by doing, and it's not so dirty. So don't feel bad about doing that.
I want to second what you're saying. That isn't the problem that I'm having. The problem I'm having is if there's going to be enough people for me to monetize it competently.
And that's odd that you bring up your crowd size, because for number one, I did start reading Trailer Park Warlock finally, by the way.
Oh, cool.
I only got through the first episode so far. I enjoyed it very well. The whole the wife with the horse thing. Yeah. I read it and I was like, this is so fucking Rainwater right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I did notice, number one, your crowd size has grown quite a bit. You're almost at like 500,000 now, right? Or something? Isn't it like 500,000 subscribers?
I wish it was 500. It's 96 subscribers. 96,000.
Why did I think it was more? I thought I saw like 300,000 or something like that. 300,000 likes, or I don't know. Maybe I was reading something wrong. Either way,
saw that. I know where you might have saw that, and because on the rankings, it's ranked with the overall likes from the whole comic, and it's around 500,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, neither way, I also noticed something that I think every artist wants to do this at some point because it's totally an ego stroke, 110%. But you have done like Q&As. Like,
sure,
your fans are asking questions and you're responding. And I've never really gotten to do that, which it's a fun thing to do as an artist, is to kind of interact with the fan base and stuff. You've gotten to do that. And I'm curious to know from you, what's that like?
I mean, it can be really fun. It's one of those things where it's like, there are questions I really like and I want to respond to and answer, and then there are the questions where it's like they get really nuanced in particular about this one thing in the plot where I'm like, I didn't really fully think that through, so I'm not gonna really not gonna bother that. But I mean, it's cool to get people who are like, hey, I really like your work, and I have this one particular like character that I like. Can you tell me anything more about them? Or like, I really love people who want to ask. I mean, I love all the people who are reading it, but like the comments that I respond to most quickly are usually the ones where it's like, what is, they have questions that are things that I'm never going to cover in the story, but I want to like give them an answer just for the fun of it, like, especially if I can make a joke out of it. So like, one thing that I've liked for a long time is that people kind of will ask about world building stuff. So there's this is stuff that comes up further into the story where it's like, there's all these businesses built around magic and stuff. So like you have like you have like basically like plumbing magic, which would be like plumomancy or whatever. I'm just kind of using that terminology loosely, but like an accountant would be like a taxomancer and all this other stuff. So people will start to ask questions like, so like, does this apply to everything in this world? And I'm like, well, here are the rules that I've written for myself, and let me give you some answers about that. Like those questions are really fun. And then one of my favorite, I think we've talked about this before, is like one of my favorite things that I did, and unfortunately I wasn't able to really duplicate this because I wanted to see more of what fans thought about this, but at the end of the season 1 Q&A, I asked if anybody had had any ghost experiences, and I was like the floodgates opened. Like, it's crazy how many people responded to that and had their own experiences, and like that kind of threw me for a loop because like I was not really expecting that much of a response, and it's like everybody started opening up about their particular experiences.
Wow.
And it just like it was one of those things where when I started reading it, I was like, I'm going to have to reconsider what I think about this phenomenon, like if there's anything to it or not, because this is like too much. Like you know what I mean? Like it's too much to be that inundated with people's like experiences regarding what they're calling ghosts. Like it could be something else, right? It could be a lot of people like having maybe they have hallucinations or whatever, but it's like at a certain point you kind of go, I don't know, like there's something going on.
This many people having a hallucination?
Yeah.
And it's all very similar? And
yeah. That was probably like the most connected I felt to my audience. And it's in the sense of like, and I would like to replicate that experience in the future, but like that was one of those moments where I was like, wow, like this is really hitting something that resonates with a lot of people, and why there are so many paranormal radio shows that exist where people like call in to talk about stuff, because like people are having weird experiences out there.
That's news to me, because I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I was just saying to somebody, did you ever notice how like ghost reports and stuff like that have dropped off since the invention of cell phones and like, security cameras being in houses and stuff like that? Like nobody has these crazy experiences like they did on Unsolved Mysteries back in the 80s, because we can verify everything now. You know what I mean? Like we can record at the drop of a hat. So obviously, like I think I was starting to think like, oh, all the people on fucking Unsolved Mysteries were making shit up. And, these are just like the hoaxes that got embellished so much that they got primetime TV. But now you're kind of pulling the rug out of my...
I would challenge that a little bit, because like
You also have to keep in mind, I'm really good at After Effects. So when if I see a ghost video, I'm like, I know how I can do that. I just do this with I pre-comp a mask over this, and then I do that, and yeah.
That's a tricky part of it, right? Because like I think a lot of so much of what we are willing to believe and accept is sort of based on what we see on the TV screen or whatever.
Sure.
And when like you're saying, like when that becomes very easy to replicate, like how do you, like I've yet to see a UFO video where I'm like, that can't be real. But then I've personally had an experience like this last year where I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like I saw somewhere, I was like, I don't know what that is. That is not a helicopter. It's not an airplane. Like some kind of weird meteorite or something. Like I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would typify that as a UFO under the very literal expression of I literally cannot identify what that is that I'm seeing. So like I could see why people would be like, yeah, I saw a UFO. I'm gonna call into the show and talk about it, because like I don't know how to relate to this experience. And that's like one of those territories that I think, for me, I'm very interested in trying to be a part of, or trying to like relate to people on, because there is a lot in life that still exists where it's like, I don't know how to explain that. Like things just happen where you're just like, how do you even explain that? And like, the problems often come when you try to explain it instead of just trying to deal with the idea of like things happen, you don't know what caused them to happen, you know?
Yeah. I'm curious to know if any of that inspires you, like when you see stuff like that, because in the rare moments when things happen to me where I'm like, I did not see that coming, I don't understand that, but it moved me. Like stuff like that sticks, like you said. Does that influence your art at all? Do you end up trying to like, you know, dissect your thoughts through your art when you do it? Like if you saw that UFO, did you suddenly think, hey, well, what happened if I threw a UFO into Trailer Park Warlock? How would Jake Baker tackle a UFO? You know what I mean? Like, does that kind of stuff end up working at stuff into your art?
That's what I would say. Keep reading. We'll get there.
Spoiler alert. I mean, but it's interesting to me that, you know, people have those experiences, but then at the same time, I think a lot of people are full of shit. And
that becomes the hard part, right? Like,
yeah.
So many people are full of shit that it's hard to really accept a lot of that stuff. And so for me, it's like, and that is going back to your question that you were asking just a moment ago. That is part of the reason why I wrote Trailer Park Warlock, was like me dissecting my thoughts in regards to like paranormal culture, you know, the ideas of the unexplained, because I still like work through those questions all the time, and there's all sorts of different weird answers that come up, you know, and sometimes what seems at first like the most rational and reasonable example upon further inquiry turns out to not be all that reasonable, you know, when you consider all the factors that go into a person's experience. And so like I haven't, me personally in my life right now, I haven't really gotten to any answers other than sometimes weird shit happens, you just don't have an answer for it. And
that's very interesting that your piece is about that. It's like we're on the same artist wavelength right now, because we're exploring the exact same theme through different ways. Yeah. You're through Trailer Park Warlock, which is like a fantasy comedy type webtoon, and I'm doing the exact same thing through Haunted, which is kind of like a drama, horror, mystery lens. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the exact same thing, because when I started kind of doing Haunted, it started with me questioning my own, I don't want to call it religiosity, but spirituality, I guess, would be what it is, where I'm very much in doubt of anything really actually existing beyond real human life and animals and plant life and, you know, cells and stuff like that, like monsters. I don't think there are vampires, but at the same time, I really don't think God exists anymore. And that's a change for me from, you know, how I was brought up and everything. And as I was developing it more, you know, I really kind of looked at it through a lens of people and their self-slavery to a political ideology where they're so sure that something is right, that they disregard facts or, you know, or what has actually happened. And this, in case you're reading too far into this, this applies to both sides, the right and the left. That's right. I'm a centrist. But the mindset, and I get a lot of this from Twitter, you know, this rabid, you know, dedication to one particular idea is the truth, and there's nothing else that informs it. There's no other point of views. There's nothing morality wise or that shifts or gray areas. There's black and white, that dichotomy. It started kind of working its way in. So when I started really kind of rewriting Haunted, it wasn't so much, it doesn't get into the weeds about religion being real or not, or politics being right or not, but it kind of was me exploring the idea of humans who become so dedicated to one closed-minded thought, whether God is real or God is not, or whether this is right or this is wrong, and how that single-minded approach can negatively impact someone. I don't want to give too way into like the plot of my horror movie, but like that's what I started exploring, and it sounds like that's, you know, me doing it through that drama horror lens, you doing it through a comedic fantasy lens. Absolutely. So it's like the exact same thing that we're both studying through our art at the moment, and I find that really interesting.
I think that might be because either both of us on like a level are feeling what's going on in the bigger culture for a lot of people, you know, because there's so many people who are burnt out by the like left versus right shit.
Yeah.
And are like caught into, well, if I don't have this, I was talking with Horace about this. I'm gonna have to beep that out. Shit. I was talking with Soko about this. I was talking with Soko about this on WBB the other day, which is like this whole thing about people don't have solidity in their life right now.
Did you say solidity or fluidity?
Solidity. Like solid ground. Because people were like, a lot of people are clinging to the left versus right thing because it gives them something solid to hold on to. Like, here's a good guy, here's a bad guy. And when people start getting out of that and start realizing, oh, this is like bullshit. Like, what am I doing with my life? You know?
Yep.
Why am I getting into fights with strangers on the internet? Like, suddenly what happens is like, they don't have anything to grab hold on to. So they're like, what are my value systems? Like, they start having existential crises. And the existential crisis is what got them into the left versus right thing in the first place. And so, like, for me, like, I'm trying to explore that right now because I don't necessarily think I'll have answers, but I'll have something that'll give somebody to relate to so they don't feel alone in that process. So, like,
yeah.
So they can laugh at the chaos of the world and then start structuring something around that laughter so that they can, like, go, oh, you know, it's not that bad. Yeah, it's chaotic sometimes. Yeah, like, the world is a fucking mess sometimes. But, like, I'm alive. I can figure it out. And I don't have to, like, have to have some specific ideology or whatever in order to bring value into my life. Because that shit doesn't bring value into my life, from my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, like, for me, the value in my life comes from exploring that stuff, picking the good, you know, throwing out the bad and moving on, and, like, structuring some kind of growing mechanism, right, that builds wealth in my life based off of, and by wealth, I mean, like, wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience, wealth of, you know, goodness in my life, rather than just, like, you know, having to rely on somebody else's commandments, basically. Because that to me is road to death. But go ahead, Joe.
By going off script.
Yeah, exactly.
That is, and this is the beauty of, I'm gonna commend both of us right now. We're great fucking artists. Because not only did we do a setup and payoff, but we had a theme of going off script, and we set that up in our opening moments. We went off script, and we have come back to prove why going off script is actually good. So in a way, we have created a thematically sound episode of the podcast about deriving from what you cling to in order to explore new things and discover things and maybe illustrate a different point. So oddly enough, we set out to not do something and ended up doing it anyway, in I think the best way to illustrate it possible.
Yeah.
Yay us. I swear to God, people are going to think that we planned this shit, but it's true. By going off script, whether it be for your religious views or your morality or your political standings, whatever it may be, you start seeing things differently, and then you start kind of questioning who you are, what you actually believe, what you don't, what you want to believe, what you want to learn, what you don't want to know. All that stuff starts coming better into focus. And I think that's what we've done here today, oddly enough, right around the usual time that we end. So I think we can let this be another harmonious episode of Midnight at the Spaghetti Factory and call it there, unless there's anything you wanted to tack on as a, what do they call it after the story's over?
Like a stinger or whatever? Is that what it's called?
Not a stinger, an epilogue, unless you had anything to epilogue about.
No, I had my rant.
And it was a beautiful one too, because you tied it all together and I'm the one that labeled it. So I think we worked well in that instance. But we'll be back next week. Thank you all for tuning in. Check us out on YouTube if you want to look at our beautiful faces while we're doing this, unless Rainwater's connection fucks up, in which I will put his Jake Baker icon up instead. Good night, everybody.